Joining us now, Josh Hammer, Senior Counsel at the Article 3 Project and Senior Editor-at-Large of Newsweek. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I don't understand why we even have the UN at this point. I know that it's now just kind of a tradition. They all get to dress up, fly to New York, go to the UN General Assembly and pretend that they're changing the world. But at the end of the day, all they want to do is destroy sovereignty. I mean, that's what I argue. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You know, it was 8 years ago in 2016 when the Barack Obama administration was on its way out the door, and, you know, don't let the door hit you on the way out, so to speak. And Samantha Power, who was Barack Obama's final ambassador to the United Nations, she failed to veto a disgustingly anti-Semitic, anti-Western civilization UN resolution that essentially declared not all just of Judea and Samaria, aka the so-called West Bank, but also the old city of Jerusalem, the Western Wall, the holiest sites of all. It declared that as occupied territory. And the United States, for the first time in its history of the UN, failed to veto that. They actually let it go through on an abstention. And at that time, I took to the obscure blog site that I was blogging for at that time. I wasn't a fancy Newsweek columnist yet or whatever. And I literally wrote a blog post that destroy the United Nations, like actually kick it off our shores, physically tear down that building. And in its place in Turtle Bay in New York City, why don't we put in some nice missile defense against Iran or China's on land, just to make a point. Look, the fault lines in today's America and today's world are exactly as you have laid it out. You have on the one side the national order movement. You have the national conservatives. You have those who actually still believe in the idea of the Westphalian nation state as it has existed at least since 1648 in the Peace of Westphalia. Then on the other hand, you actually do have legitimate globalists, those who, like John Lennon in the wretched song Imagine, are actually trying to tear down all borders and ultimately trying to eliminate all the particularities that make us human in the first place, trying to homogenize us into one great blob. They're not even hiding it. I mean, that's the whole point of the Great Reset. That's the whole point of the UN. That's the whole point of the WTO. It's the whole point of the Soros Open Society Foundation. It's right there in the name, Open Society Foundation. They're basically just giving away the game in the very title of what he's trying to do. So this is the battle. I mean, this is the foundational battle for all that exists here in the world, in politics and law, culture, all of it in the 21st century. And certainly we American conservatives have to take a very firm and vocal side. I'm very glad that you're doing so on your platform as well.
No, you just so many things to unpack there, but you just said something. Blob, right? They want a blob. They want this borderless world that has no actual diversity, even though that's the mantra they run on. The great former Attorney General, John Ashcroft, he makes a distinction between the left wants they want uniformity, they don't want unity, right? And that's the great deception of this whole unity talk, right? And I've laid this out on this program too. Don't talk about unity with me. We are not in a world today where we're using the same words to describe the same things. They want a blob. We want a unity of diversity. That's not what they want. And that's so beautifully captured in the very image of their meeting at the UN General Assembly this week. What are your thoughts on the agenda that was laid out by the UN General Secretary, this vision for the future? They do this every year, but what do you think of this year's version?
I think it's nothing short of tyrannical. I mean, tyrannical is really the word that comes to mind here. I mean, you know, there is such a thing as a certain country that has certain customs, folkways, traditions. They have their own unique law and their policy and culture and religion. You know, it is entirely legitimate. It is entirely valid for one country to have a different approach to, let's take XYZ issue, AI regulation. There is zero reason, I repeat, zero reason as to why the issue of AI should possibly come up at the United Nations.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.